What if the very thing we believe will make us happy is the source of our suffering? Arthur Schopenhauer believed that at the root of human misery lies desire, the restless will that drives us forward, never satisfied, always demanding more. To exist, he argued, is to want. And to want is to suffer. Think about it. Every day of your life is shaped by desire. You wake up because you want rest to end. You eat because you want hunger to stop. You work because you want security, or recognition, or more comfort than you currently have. Desire pulls you out of bed, pushes you through routines, fuels your ambition. And yet, the moment one desire is fulfilled, another takes its place. Hunger returns. Ambition grows. Satisfaction fades. It never ends. Schopenhauer described this cycle as a pendulum. On one side, pain, the suffering of unfulfilled desire. On the other, boredom, the emptiness that follows satisfaction. Life swings endlessly between the two. When you are chasing what you lack, you suffer. When you finally attain it, the thrill evaporates and boredom creeps in. And so the will invents new cravings, pushing you once more into struggle. A life trapped between pain and boredom, pulled endlessly by the will. We like to imagine desire as the path to happiness. Advertisements promise fulfillment if we buy just one more thing. Society praises ambition as the key to greatness. Self-help gurus tell us that success is simply the achievement of our desires. But Schopenhauer turned this thinking upside down. Happiness, he said, cannot be built on desire, because desire is an endless hunger. You cannot fill a bottomless pit. This is why wealth rarely brings peace. A person who gains fortune does not stop desiring, they simply shift their hunger. More money means new status to chase, new comforts to defend, new comparisons to endure. The will only grows stronger as it feeds. What once seemed like enough quickly becomes too little. What once felt like triumph soon feels like merely a step towards something still missing. And this isn't just about material things. Love, too, is shaped by the restless will. Schopenhauer believed that romantic desire was not pure affection but the will of the species demanding continuation. Passion burns brightly, but often it fades when the will's aim, survival through reproduction, has been met or frustrated. People fall in love, convinced they have found eternal happiness, only to discover disillusionment, conflict, and longing for something else. Desire deceives us by presenting itself as salvation, but in the end, it binds us tighter to the wheel of suffering. Think about your own life. How often have you said, if I just had this, I would be happy? And how often, once you gained it, did that happiness last? A new job, a new house, a new relationship, they shine at first, then dull into the ordinary. You begin to crave something else. The cycle restarts. Schopenhauer's insight is as unsettling as it is liberating. The problem is not that we haven't yet gotten enough, but that desire itself cannot deliver lasting peace. To live only for wanting more is to sentence yourself to perpetual restlessness. The will drives, but it never arrives. And yet, within this bleak recognition lies the possibility of freedom. If we can see desire for what it is, an endless hunger, we can stop mistaking it for happiness. We can begin to loosen its grip. The first step is honesty, admitting that more will never be enough. That the life of constant craving is not a ladder to happiness, but a trap of endless dissatisfaction. And only when we stop clinging to the next desire can we glimpse what lies beyond it. If the restless will traps us in endless craving, the natural question arises, is there a way out? Schopenhauer believed that recognizing the burden of desire is the beginning of wisdom. Most people run from this truth, clinging to distractions, chasing illusions of lasting fulfillment. But he insisted that once we confront the cycle honestly, we can begin to loosen its hold. The chains of desire are strong, but they are not unbreakable. The first step is awareness. Most of us mistake the spark of desire for a promise of happiness. We believe that achieving this one goal, gaining this one possession, will finally complete us. Awareness interrupts this illusion. When you feel a desire rising, you pause and ask, will this truly satisfy me, or will it quickly fade into boredom and lead to another craving? This simple question shifts your relationship to desire. You see it not as salvation but as a restless force, one that cannot be trusted to deliver peace. Schopenhauer pointed to art as one of the few ways we can temporarily escape the grip of the will. In moments of aesthetic contemplation, listening to music, watching a sunset, reading a poem, we step outside ourselves. Desire pauses, if only briefly. We are not hungry for more, we are absorbed in what is before us. Unlike ambition or possession, which quickly collapse into dissatisfaction, the experience of beauty silences the will for a moment. Art does not feed desire, it suspends it. And in that suspension, we taste something rare, peace. Music, for Schopenhauer, held a special power. He believed it was a direct expression of the will itself, stripped of all images and concepts. To listen deeply is to encounter the raw rhythm of existence without being enslaved by it. For many, music brings an inexplicable relief, a sense of being carried outside the restless cycle. In that experience, we glimpse what life might feel like without desire constantly pulling us forward. Another path is compassion. Schopenhauer taught that when we recognize suffering as universal, our own cravings lose some of their tyranny. Instead of obsessing over what we lack, we become aware of how others struggle too. Compassion shifts our focus outward. The endless I want becomes tempered by the realization that others are burdened by the same will. To act with kindness is to resist the will's self-centered pull. Compassion does not eliminate suffering, but it lightens it, for ourselves and others alike. Yet perhaps the most radical path Schopenhauer described was asceticism, the deliberate quieting of desire. He admired individuals who turned away from worldly ambition, wealth, and pleasure, not out of despair, but out of clarity. They saw that chasing fulfillment in desire was a trap, so they chose simplicity instead. To eat only what sustains, to live without excess, to retreat into contemplation, these were acts of liberation, ways of stepping off the pendulum of pain and boredom. Such a life is difficult, but it reflects the deepest strength, the refusal to be ruled by the will. Of course, few can follow the path of ascetics completely. But Schopenhauer believed that even small steps toward reducing desire bring freedom. To choose silence over noise, presence over distraction, simplicity over excess, these are victories. Each time we resist the urge to chase yet another craving, we loosen the will's grip. Desire may never vanish entirely, but it can be tamed. And in that taming, life becomes less restless, less heavy, more bearable. Think of it like carrying a heavy load. At first, you believe the only solution is to add more, to pile on achievements, possessions, recognition. But the wiser solution is to set some of the weight down. Every craving you release makes the burden lighter. The will still drives you, but you are no longer crushed beneath it. This, Schopenhauer suggested, is the hidden gift of pessimism. By admitting that desire cannot make us happy, we stop being deceived by it. We stop chasing illusions. And when illusions fade, reality, though imperfect, feels more honest, more manageable. Life remains difficult, but it no longer fools us. And in that clarity, there is a new kind of strength. If desire is endless and suffering inevitable, what remains for us? For Schopenhauer, the recognition of this truth was not an invitation to despair but an opening to a different way of living. Once we stop expecting desire to save us, we can begin to live with clearer eyes and lighter hearts. The burden does not vanish, but it no longer defines us completely. Freedom, in his philosophy, is not the absence of suffering, it is the ability to face suffering without being enslaved by it. One lesson of this freedom is learning to savor the small. The restless will pushes us toward grand achievements, permanent happiness, total fulfillment. But such absolutes never arrive. What we do have are fleeting moments, the warmth of sunlight on the skin, a shared laugh, the quiet relief of rest after labor. To notice these without demanding more is to step outside the endless hunger, if only briefly. Pessimism, when understood rightly, sharpens appreciation. By admitting that life offers no permanent joy, we learn to cherish temporary joys more deeply. Another lesson is humility. Desire tricks us into believing that our will matters above all else, that if we strive hard enough, we can bend the world to fit our dreams. But life does not obey so easily. Illness intrudes, fortune shifts, relationships fracture. Pessimism teaches us not to see these as betrayals, but as the natural texture of existence. Humility softens our response. We stop demanding perfection and begin accepting imperfection as the rule. This does not make us passive, it makes us resilient. To endure without illusions is strength. There is also peace in withdrawing from the endless comparisons that desire fuels. So much of modern life is competition: who has more, who looks better, who achieves faster. The will thrives on envy, pushing us to measure ourselves against others. But when we accept that desire itself is insatiable, these comparisons lose their grip. We see the futility of chasing superiority, because even those at the top remain restless. True dignity lies not in outpacing others, but in stepping aside from the race entirely. Schopenhauer often described the will as a tyrant that rules our inner world. But even tyrants can be resisted. Each time we pause instead of indulging a craving, each time we sit in silence instead of seeking distraction, each time we choose compassion instead of self-absorption, we defy the will. These are small acts, but they accumulate into something greater, a life less ruled by hunger, more anchored in clarity. And beyond all of this lies a paradox. By embracing pessimism, we may find ourselves becoming gentler, more compassionate, even more hopeful. Not hopeful in the naive sense that everything will turn out perfectly, but hopeful in the deeper sense that we can face life as it is and still create meaning. Compassion grows because we see suffering everywhere. Gratitude grows because we no longer take fleeting joys for granted. Wisdom grows because illusions no longer blind us. So perhaps the burden of desire is also the source of insight. It reminds us that happiness cannot be hoarded, that satisfaction cannot be secured forever, that life's treasures are fragile and fleeting. And precisely because they are fragile, they matter. To live with Schopenhauer's wisdom is to stop running from this truth, to meet it with open eyes, and to find within it not despair but depth. Life remains difficult, but it becomes honest. And honesty, more than comfort, may be what sets us free.